It is a Sunday in 1973. Thousands of people have gathered in Paris to see the two most modern ships on the planet, the Concorde and the Tu-144. Suddenly, after a strange pirouette, the Soviet ship plummets to the ground. The impact transforms the modern aircraft into a ball of fire. Dozens of people die instantly and many more are injured. Behind that fatal accident is one of the most unsuccessful aeronautical races in history. Since the 1960s, France, England and the Soviet Union have been competing to put the first supersonic passenger plane into service. In this video we'll not only learn about that particular rivalry, but also the shortcomings that turned the Tu-144 into a real nightmare for its creators. Join us to find out about one of the most eventful chapters in supersonic aviation. The sound barrier had already been broken in 1947 when a rocket-powered spacecraft reached that mark for the first time in history. This was just the beginning. From then on, speed records were frequently broken. At the beginning of the 1960s, the British airline industry saw in this new niche the possibility of positioning itself as a world leader. In parallel, the French were in a similar process, so in 1962, two countries that were once rivals decided to join forces to create the Concorde program and revolutionize the airline industry. The best engineers on both sides of the English Channel were put to work on the future supersonic jet. What they did not know was that the Soviet authorities were aware of their progress and that through espionage and information theft they had managed to capture 90,000 technical documents. For the Soviet Union, keeping up with Western technology was a state policy and a propaganda tool. It didn't matter so much if it was really useful or if they had the material means to carry out the projects. If there's anything the Soviets never lacked, it was ambition and technical bombast. Thus the Tupolev Tu-144 project was born, which on the surface looked like an almost complete imitation of the Concorde. But, as they say, the essential is invisible to the eye. The United Kingdom and France had state-of-the-art technology in terms of motorization, and thanks to two turbojets with afterburners, their ship could reach supersonic speed and maintain it for a long period of time. Scientists in the Soviet Union did not have the same resources, and their project not only had less range, but was constantly reliant on its afterburners, leading to a bumpy and noisy ride. Even so, in Moscow they achieved significant improvements in terms of passenger capacity and, surprisingly, speed. In fact, during its flight tests in June and July 1969, the Tupolev was the first passenger plane to break the sound barrier. Another key difference was in the wing design. The Concorde had an ingenious delta wing system that allowed it to perform well both at supersonic speeds and when decelerating to land on conventional runways. The Tu-144 did not have this design and, although it was capable of high speeds, landings were turbulent and noisy. To remedy this shortcoming, Soviet engineers designed the canards, small stabilizers that were located in front of the wings. Do you know other Soviet projects based on Western weapons? Leave us your answer in the comment box below. It is here where the stories of the Tupolev and the Concorde are mirrored. Both ships were problematic and took years to enter service, in part because of the enormous amount of fuel they consumed and the great oil crisis that occurred in the early 70s. Although the Concorde was superior, the truth is that it had severe noise pollution and operating cost problems. France and the UK actually lost money on every flight. On the other side of the Iron Curtain, things were not going much better. The Tu-144 had obvious design problems. It was a rushed project and it was quite a feat to even get it off the ground. Despite having 7 units built, by the end of the 70s the Tu-144 was flying once a week on a single route between Moscow and Almaty, in Kazakhstan. In 102 scheduled flights, 226 mechanical failures were recorded, 80 of which were serious enough to delay or directly cancel the takeoff. It was evident that the Soviet Union feared an accident on a flight loaded with passengers. A tragedy is never good propaganda, but it was a matter of time. On June 3, 1973, during an airshow held in Paris, thousands of people witnessed the best-known and documented accident of a Tu-144. The supersonic plane pilots tried a reckless maneuver to impress the public. But the Tupolev did not resist and disintegrated in mid-flight. The impact with the ground killed its 6 crew members, 8 spectators of the event, and left a total of 60 injured. The subsequent investigation revealed that the aircraft did not withstand the stress to which the pilots subjected it, which caused the left wing to break off and impact the fuel tanks located just below. As we have already pointed out, both the Concorde and its Soviet copy had fundamental problems. They were too noisy when taking off, and like any supersonic craft, they both caused sonic booms. Loud explosions that were heard below the ship's flight path. It was the sound barrier shattering as the plane passed. The Concorde held out until the early 1980s at great financial loss until France and Britain found a way to make the project profitable. What began with the intention of massively revolutionizing business travel was redesigned as a premium service only available to luxury customers. The Concorde became synonymous with fame, money, and power. The Tu-144 did not have the same fortune. Beyond its fatal technical flaws, there was no way to take the same path as its western peer. Reports indicated that it was an uncomfortable ship, with little space for passengers and so noisy that to communicate it was necessary to use written notes. The Soviet Union kept the ticket price at 37 rubles, not much more than what was paid for a regular flight. Clearly, it was not enough to cover the operational cost or the very expensive maintenance that this type of ship required. Although both projects were a failure, the Concorde was able to find a niche to survive until its decommissioning in 2003. After more than 27 years of flight. In contrast, the Tu-144 not only had very serious accidents, but the passenger transport service remained operational for just 1 year. The Tupolev passed into the transport and scientific research sector. The history of these ships is one of exaggerated ambitions, but above all, of using technology as a propaganda weapon. If you like this video, we invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. In the pinned comment and description you will also find links to other videos. Thanks for joining us until the end and stay tuned for the next military aviation episode.